You are entering the wind tunnel with Jack Root. No spin, no bull, all Jack.
Seriously. And again, I'm not blowing smoke up your skirt. It's a no-hold-bars visit with yours truly, Jack Root, and now joined by Mario Andretti.
You're talking to me, of course.
I'm talking to you. Yeah, of course I'm talking to you, Roger Penske.
Let's get back to racing. We need fans in the stands. And Jack, I thank you.
Jimmy Johnson in the house.
That's a lot of fun. I mean, what a fun car.
Then TT IndyCar owner Chip Ganassi.
Thanks, Jack. Great to catch up with you. Great to talk, and hope you're well, and I'll see you on the trail here somewhere.
Wind Tunnel is brought to you by
Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR.
Here is your host, Jack Root.
Hey, it's nice to have you back. Welcome to the Wind Tunnel. My guest this week brings some interesting perspectives to the world of racing. Alex Rossi is stopping by, and we're going to revisit his amazing Indy 500 victory in his rookie season and find out why he has never looked at his likeness on the Borg Warner Trophy. We're also going to get the inside dope on his and Andretti teammate James Hinchcliffe's really humorous podcast. In our Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap, I'm going to be joined by a modified racer who, over the last 20 years, has made Bowman Gray Stadium his house. Well, kind of, sort of. You see, Burt Myers has taken more than 80 checkered flags at the flat quarter miler, known affectionately as the Madhouse. But his rival, Tim Brown, has taken 10 titles as well, and almost the same number of victories there. Together, they provide the lightning rod that ignites more than 17,000 screaming fans almost every summer Saturday night when Bowman Gray is in operation. And my last guest is a guy that I've known for more than 40 years. Kyle Petty is part of this week's show, and folks that know both of us will tell you that whenever Kyle and I get together, nothing is off the table, and that is the case today as well. And, I almost forgot. My story this week centers around a night way back in time when I was mistaken for Kyle Petty. Really, I'm not joking. Believe me, it's the truth. Well, just listen later in this episode. But before we dive into visiting with my guests, how about we unpack this past weekend's racing action with our weekly news and notes. There was a full racing card for NASCAR this past weekend, and it all started Friday night with the Camping World Trucks in Knoxville, Iowa on the dirt.
We're racing the trucks at Knoxville. 5 to go at Knoxville. Oh, and Chandler Smith gets a good jump this time.
And look at Grant Enfinger wedging his way inside of Hocevar with Austin Hill.
Austin Hill's going to get second. Enfinger back to third in a big pileup. And it looks like NASCAR overtime. Who's it going to be? It's NASCAR overtime in Knoxville.
Chandler Smith did his job.
Oh, and there's the big pileup. Overtime number 4. Enfinger and Hocevar in row 2. Austin Hill gets a good jump to the point. Enfinger nudges his way inside the 18 of Chandler Smith for second. Hocevar trying to get Enfinger now for that second spot. Nobody's going to stop Austin Hill for the first time this season. Austin Hill wins the first Camping World Truck Series race at Knoxville.
Kind of thought we were out of it for a little bit. Had that restart on the outside of the 38 and earlier in the race, and man, I fell back all the way to like 20th, and I didn't think we were going to make it back up. Track position was huge. It was really hard to get around people. Had to kind of rough them up a little bit to get around them. So I just kept my head down. If you would have told me we would have won in a dirt race this year, I would have told you you're lying. So.
Can Kyle Busch go out how he has spent most of his career as a winner in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He starts on the pole and gets a great jump. Hemrick gets a bit of a jump on Kyle Busch. Allmendinger punts Kyle Busch, shoves him up closer, and we've got trouble along the front stretch.
Just 6 laps left in the Credit Karma Money 250. Green flag is out. Allmendinger gets a great restart with a big push from Allgaier. He is door-to-door with Hemrick in 1.
Allmendinger has been the only guy to... Oh, no! Allmendinger gets into the back end of Daniel Hemrick's car, sends him into the outside wall. Significant damage to Hendrick as he's dropping through the field. Kyle Busch, the race leader.
A clean sweep in 2021 for Kyle Busch. 5 Xfinity Series starts, 5 wins, win 102. Kyle Busch, how do you like me now? Now let's drop the mic. I've won my last Xfinity Series start.
It's kind of a somber day, somber win, whatever. Just hate it that the 18 got wrecked there. He was fast, and I was just trying to push him and bump him forward and help him, and ended up getting him squirrely and sideways, and then just the wreck transpired from there. But hate it for those guys. I know Daniel deserves this shot, this win, a win, and it looked like today was his day, but didn't quite work out, but did for us. So still cool to get JGR in victory lane and Toyota. Hopefully we can do some more of that tomorrow. I think I got the laps, 20,000, is that right? Laps led in the series too, which is more than double of anybody. I hear these things, I see these things, so I know these things, right? But obviously just want to thank the fans, appreciate them, and the Rowdy Nation ones for pulling for me all these years. And you guys can find something else to do on Saturdays, I guess, and not worry about watching Xfinity Series racing, just focus on the Cup stuff.
That night, round 5 in the Superstar Racing Experience. And this time, it was the quarter-mile Slinger Speedway in Wisconsin that hosted Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham's collection of all-stars.
We are racing at Slinger Speedway. Marco Andretti with Luke Fenhaus to his outside at the green. Stewart gets inside of Fenhaus for the race lead. It's Fenhaus inside, Stewart outside. We're back under green in Slinger. All right, Marco. Fenhaus with a big slide. He saves it, but Marco Andretti tries to pounce. Marco Andretti injecting himself into the fight for the win.
Marco door-to-door with smoke really forces the issue. Really has to make him lift, and then gets right to the bumper and into the bumper of Luke Fenhaus.
And it is Andretti with a car length on Fenhaus to turns 3 and 4. Can Fenhaus get there with the bumper? Andretti wide. Fenhaus looks to get by, but he can't do it. Marco Andretti wins at Slinger.
Honestly, I know it's not a popular win, but I tried to be as clean as possible. I'm so proud of him. I mean, 17 years old, that's pretty awesome. So I'm trying to learn from him, to be honest with you. So just delighted to try to, be able to do it without touching him. And, I know it's not a popular win, but us old guys got to get it when we can, man. He's young. He's got a lot of time ahead of him. I had so much fun.
Before we catch you up on Sunday's Cup race, Lenny Baticki, host of PRN's At the Track, filed this report on this past weekend's NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series action.
Thanks a lot, Jack. This is your NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series Racing Report. We'll start out in the Empire State, New York, Bethel Motor Speedway to Alex McCullum. Ben Polo, the winner at Claremont Motorsports Park. Riverhead Raceway to Michael Rutkowski. Pat Dorr wins in Wisconsin at Cedar Lake, while at La Crosse it was John Hubner and Sean Scheel getting the checkers at Madison. Colorado National to Brett Yackey. Brody Montgomery wins at Coos Bay in Oregon. Canada's Sunset Speedway to Ryan Kimball. Tim Brown got the checkers at Bowman Gray Stadium in North Carolina, while Hickory Motor Speedway went to Sam Butler, and Brandon Clemens was the winner over at Wake County. In California at Irwindale, it was Trevor Huddleston. Curtis Glover got the big win at I-80 in Nebraska. Evergreen Speedway in Washington to Greg Bennett. Brian Herthler took the checkers at Grandview in Pennsylvania. Lakeside Speedway in Kansas to Darren Fuqua, while Rick Godovic and Matt Carter split the victories at Virginia's Langley Speedway. In New Hampshire at Monadnock, it was Todd Patnode, while Joey Powarzik won at Hudson. And in Florida at New Smyrna Speedway, Brad May back in victory lane. That is your NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series Racing Report. Have an awesome week. Thanks for having us on.
Sunday, it was back to Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Quaker State 400 for NASCAR's Cup Series. It was to be the final race under the track's current configuration, and it turned out to be a classic display of sibling rivalry.
Racing in Atlanta, Georgia. Kyle Busch is going to win his 4th stage right here. Only had 3 all of 2020. And so it will be Stage 2 winner Kurt Busch this time. The brothers have swept the stages here at Atlanta.
So the 42 car's now taking that high side, trying to take the line away from the 18, and look at what it does. The one car, Kurt Busch, drives right up to the inside of the 18. Kyle Busch off turn 4, a battle for the lead.
Door to door as they race into turn 1, and we knew lap traffic was going to come into play.
A little contact.
That's what Kurt wants, the bottom of 3 and 4. He will clear his brother here.
And now, out of 4 for the final time, Kurt Busch is going to win the brother duel. He wins in Atlanta.
Ross made that happen, man. Shake it back, buddy. Shake it back.
How about that, Kurt? You were able to beat your brother heads up on a green flag run for that long.
Hell yeah, we beat Kyle, right? I taught that kid everything he knows. He should be grateful, but what a battle, what a genuine, awesome old school racetrack. And I just asked the track today, last time here on your old asphalt, can I have an old guy win? And she answered. So thank you, Atlanta Motor Speedway.
But it was your young teammate that you gave so much credit to. What was the key moment where he was able to push you by the 18?
Shake and bake, shake and bake. Yeah, man, the 42. He did his job as a teammate. Ross is going to get a little flack for it, but that's what it takes to be a good teammate at the right moment. So I couldn't be more proud of Ross Chastain.
We're hitting the brakes, but we'll be back on track after this. Coming up next.
With the car underneath him, look at this, down to the grass below Sebastian. Unbelievable.
This is the move of the race right here. Look at all these cars he passes on the outside. The outside is slippery, it's full of dust, and he keeps on going and barely makes it. But he does. Then the next restart, where he tries to go inside of his Andretti Autosport teammate Hunter Ray, who closes the door, so he goes outside, goes by Hunter Ray in 1, and goes by Pagenaud in 2. And look how close those tires are.
All this at 215 and 20 miles an hour.
And this is the area where everybody has been spinning. Oh, look at that. How fun is that?
He is fearless and fast. I'll visit with Alexander Rossi after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
How about that? Alexander Rossi.
Great job.
Alexander Rossi will spoil the Will Power three-peat, but he gets another win. Rossi wins in Pocono. He wins at Road America.
Nice drive.
Alexander
Well done.
Rossi
Good job, boys.
victorious in
Jeremy,
Wisconsin.
excellent. Thanks.
Well, I am pleased to be joined by one of the members of Andretti Autosport's Juggernaut, a multi-car team that competes regularly on the NTT IndyCar Series. He is the winner of the 100th Indianapolis 500. We're talking about Alexander Rossi. Alexander, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You are part of, on a regular basis, a 4-car team with yourself, Ryan, and Hinch, and the wild man, right, Colton Herta. Where do you fit, or is there a pecking order? You know, can you take us behind the curtain a little bit about Andretti Autosport and how they approach it?
Sure. I mean, I think that it's a big effort from the whole organization to run the amount of cars that we do. Obviously, you know, there's other teams that run 4 full-time cars during the year, which it's a lot of effort from Michael all the way down, and it can't be underestimated how difficult it is to kind of prep that amount of cars to a level that's necessary these days to be competitive. So, you know, the only downside to it really is the debriefs are pretty long, and you know, sometimes logistically it's a little challenging, but I think for the most part we can use all of the different experiences and input and kind of resources from having that many kind of individual teams and drivers within the organization to help guide the ship forward and to make sure that everyone is accomplishing as much as possible.
As I alluded to, you won the 100th Indy 500 as a rookie back in 2016.
He's off of turn 2. He's half a lap to go.
Full throttle. Got this, bring it home. He's down to 2. Hey, push.
He's done it. Checkered flag is in the air. A first-timer is going to win the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race. California's Alexander Rossi to the checkered flag, and he's done it.
Checkered flag. You just won the Indy 500, baby!
I love the competition, and I love the aspect of a 500-mile race and how many, how much it ebbs and flows, and you're never really out of it until you're actually out of it.
It's an interesting journey when we tell the story of Alexander Rossi coming to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And really, the year you won, it was kind of a last-minute deal that was put together. Now that you've won, and now you're an established veteran in IndyCar racing, has your perspective and respect and understanding of what it takes? I guess my question is, do you now fully embrace the career detour that you ended up taking?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, absolutely. I think ever since winning that race and going on the year-long kind of tour, if you will, for lack of a better word, of being a part of all of the tradition and history and very special things that come along with winning that race, my appreciation kind of just continued to build. That just stokes the fire more and more.
All right. I want total 100% honesty.
Okay.
How many times when you go by the Borg Warner Trophy do you take a good long look at your sterling silver face on that giant, very famous trophy?
0.
Really?
Haven't looked at it once, other than when it was unveiled. And the reason for that is because I'm motivated by losing. So, I think at the point that I retire in my career, I'll have a time for it and an appreciation for it, and will want to show people it, and maybe I'll have kids at that point and want to show them it and tell the story of what we accomplished in 2016. But at this point, I still have a lot more to do and a lot more people to prove wrong. And I don't even look at it.
If fans don't really spend the time to look into some of the things that you do outside the race car, they may not realize the depth of, your sense of humor and your perspective on things. But if they listen to you and Hinch and your podcast, my, oh my, you guys, there's no holds barred and certainly no topic that isn't worth discussing.
That's very true. I think the podcast started out as kind of just an experiment because James had a show back in kind of 2016 and earlier called The Mayor on Air. Mm-hmm. And then his producer kind of moved on to other things. And James and I were very good friends, and our really close friend Tim was a writer in Los Angeles. And he was like, we should do a podcast with the two of you. And he was like, I'll take care of all the editing and everything. And so we were like, okay, I guess we can try it. And it started out as something that was like, we were trying to interview other athletes and other celebrities that have to deal with unique life situations, right? Mm-hmm. And then, it kind of was like, well, this is dumb. People want to hear about racing. So then we kind of just axed that whole idea and talk about, just your experiences as a racing driver, but outside of the race car, right?
This is Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Hey guys, I'm James Hinchcliffe, and that's Alexander Rossi. You can't see him, but he's here. Say hi, Alex.
I'm here, guys. I have really bad, I feel like, seasonal allergies at the moment today, and I feel like a truck hit me. So I'm going to be a little bit less cheery than y'all are used to.
So you're going to be dead? Like,
I'm not feeling great today. I'm like 2 Claritin Deep and a nostril full of Flonase, and
that's not great.
Yeah,
This is gonna be a really nerdy reference, but there's a computer game called Civilization 5, and in it, all the different like heads of nations have different characteristics. So like Gandhi's really peaceful, but if you do something that makes him even more peaceful, it actually goes below 0 and resets, and he becomes super aggressive. I feel like something's going to happen with Alex here where he's going to get in such a bad mood, it's just going to reset, and he's just going to be really cheerful and
So
here's
I'm going to take that bet.
Here's a story that happened yesterday. I went to the gym. It was a pretty tough day at the gym. Got home.
What'd you do at the gym yesterday?
The long threshold medley.
Okay.
It's pretty hellish. And so it got to like 2:00. I hadn't eaten yet. I had to go run some errands. Ran those errands and was like, oh, I'm going to stop at Chick-fil-A on the way home. And the line was wrapped around the building twice at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m.
Because
I was like,
it's Monday.
That's dumb.
Yeah, everybody who thought to get it on Sunday was like, oh, I got to go now.
Correct. Yeah. So I didn't get anything there. And then I've been kind of like craving cup of noodles lately, which is kind of weird.
Like the plastic cup things, like you just pour the hot water in?
But like Kelly was trying to be nice, and she bought me like this bougie kind from Whole Foods, and I was like,
nobody wants that.
It's not going to be great, but I'm going to have it because I want it. Well, the first 2 attempts that I had at cooking it, it was like not hot enough, and I was like, okay. Well, then I put it in the microwave. To like finish it off, took it out, wasn't hot enough yet. Did it again, and at this point I had followed all the instructions and put it in for another 35 seconds, and I opened it and it had completely overflowed and spilled in the microwave. So at this point I'm borderline pretty pissed off.
You're hangry,
I'm getting
at least you were coming off a really good weekend.
Right. We'll get to that in a second. So I take it and like whatever, sit down, immediately burn my tongue because it's too hot. And at this point, like my rage level is really starting to escalate. And Kelly is around and starting to sense this and everything. And she starts cleaning up the little mess in the microwave and stuff and trying to, help the situation. And I took my next sip, just by whatever, and it was horrible. And at this point, something just snapped inside of me, and I almost grabbed the cup of noodles.
I love where this is going.
But I took the fork, the Starbucks thing, threw it, screamed, banged my fist on the counter. Just no. And I just walked out of the room, like to the point where like I was sweating. I was so angry, and I could feel this vein in my forehead was pulsating. I was irate. Had someone said something a little bit wrong to me at that point, I think I literally would have broken someone's head.
At the end of the day, we're normal human beings that have normal stuff to deal with in life. And I think people have really appreciated getting to see that kind of side of us. It's kind of cool how the two of us balance each other out. We obviously have very different personalities, but I think James is the outgoing, very, very well-spoken Canadian, and me kind of the guy that's just here trying to compete and win races. And we have, differing viewpoints on things, but we also share a lot of the same perspectives. So it's cool to be able to, like I said, share that with people who might not see that, when you're watching just a normal broadcast.
Well, it's very, very enjoyable, and I do appreciate you leaving your podcast and joining mine today, and wish you nothing but the very best as we continue with the NTT IndyCar season.
No worries, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Alexander. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one.
Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. A treasure. The Roman Coliseum of racing.
Bowman Gray Stadium is affectionately called the Madhouse, and Burt Myers calls it home. I'll visit with Burt in our Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap next.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Side by side, two legends, Burt Myers, alongside on the outside, Tim Brown trying to muscle by.
I'm Kyle Rickey from MRN Radio, the voice of NASCAR. They are the foundation of American motorsports, the launching pad for racing's future. Time now for the Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap, brought to you by the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, driving local racing and local communities forward.
Bowman Gray Stadium was NASCAR's very first weekly operated racetrack. In fact, it was Big Bill France and Alvin Hawkins that started the track all the way back in 1949. And my Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap guest this week has a family heritage at that quarter miler inside a football stadium that stretches all the way back to those early days. His great uncle Bobby was the youngest Bowman Gray track champion until my guest Burt Myers took his very first of 10 track titles at the ripe old age of 23, all the way back in 1999. Burt Myers joins me right now inside the wind tunnel. Hey, Burt, how have you been?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, listen, modifieds are very near and dear to my heart. We talk about super late models. We can talk about all the different forms and disciplines of racing, but there is something extra special about wheeling a modified, and especially in tight quarters like Bowman Gray.
Yeah, it's hard to, you have to see it to believe it almost. We've got you run a 670 to 680 gear. You're on a 10-inch tire with about 630 horsepower. So flat quarter mile, and it's literally around a football field. So you do have to see it to believe it.
17, 18, 19,000 people flock to that place every Saturday night when it's open to watch you and the rest of the mod squad be the headliners. What is it about Bowman Gray and modifieds and the craziness that is the Madhouse in Winston-Salem?
When you take that animal that I just described and you think about it being a flat quarter mile around a football field, and you think about it being 25, 26 cars, and Bowman Gray has perfected the entertainment value side of racing. They have the 100 lappers where they draw the whole field. The twin 25 weeks, the winner draws a 8, 10, 12, 14, or 16 for a second race invert. Just the formula they have, the cone, the restart, the choose cone, they've perfected it. They really have. It's still racing, but there's a lot of entertainment there. And I think you're slowly seeing some other tracks start to mimic it because it is so successful.
From your perspective, does all of this air quotes entertainment take away from what you and your brethren in the modifieds down there are able to accomplish?
What it does, no, I don't think it takes anything away from it. We were able to have, 2 national television series because of that, that perfect storm we talked about. It draws you to it. And I think one of the things that maybe has handicapped us in this region is the fact that Bowman Gray is we call it the honey hole of modifieds. It's most of your short tracks in this region have flocked to where they've always been late model stock, super late model. And other than Bowman Gray, sadly, modifieds have become a support class. I think that in one way that's hurt the modifieds, but on the other hand, that's what's kept the modifieds alive in the South. So, what we've been able to accomplish in that little bull ring over there is it's very humbling to think about what my family's been able to do. And how far back it goes. And, just to be able to keep that tradition alive, it does my heart good.
For those that have watched the History Channel, and if they haven't, the coverage, it's still available on YouTube, called The Madhouse. It certainly made you heroes bigger than life, and it focused a spotlight on what they wanted to build as a family feud between the Tim Browns and the Myers family. Deep down, how real was that feud, and is it still a feud?
Well, it's I don't know what comparison you would have in another part of the country, but in the southeast, it's Duke versus Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
The Duke fans can't stand the Carolina fans.
It's Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees up for
okay. There you go. There you go. So, but on the other hand, no matter which team you pull for, you respect the other team by able to accomplish the legacy that they have, the family, the heritage, and just it's a mutual respect there. Me and Tim Brown have been going head to head. I think, of course, we've won 10 apiece. So in the last, I guess, 25 years, we've won 20 of the last championships. So, there's just that mutual respect there that we both have for each other, because we do give everything we've got to this lifestyle. But, we're probably not going to have Thanksgiving together. We're not going to go, grab a drink. But on the other hand, we do respect what the other one gives to this sport.
Want to talk honestly for just a second. I've said this oftentimes on this podcast that there came a period in time in NASCAR where, as they were trying to build their premier divisions, they tended to throw the baby out with the bathwater as it applied to weekly short tracks. I sense that disconnection has been reconnected for a lot of various reasons, including people now understanding more from a corporate standpoint the passion that it takes to race week in and week out on a short track. Do you see NASCAR's compass pointed back in the right direction with a focus on short track racing?
I think it's coming back around. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that, sadly in America, in the world, I should say, it's all about the mighty dollar. And I think corporate America had slowly crept its way into what we call home, and that's NASCAR racing. I think that they're beginning to figure out that these up-and-coming stars can't be generated in a setting other than, I guess you can to a certain extent, but for the most part, they have to be in a setting of, learning how to drive a race car and coming from the short tracks. I think that that's starting to come back around. I think that they're realizing that these stars that are slowly progressing had to come from somewhere. And, back growing up, it was, for me, I was an Earnhardt man, but you had your Bill Elliott's and Rusty, Darrell Waltrip, and those guys. Now, today, a lot of these guys out there racing are very new to me. And your younger generation today doesn't know the guys that I just mentioned. And it has to come from the short tracks. It has to come from the bottom level, the grassroots, in my opinion. And I think that with the corporate America the way it is today, and with technology, of course, the way it is today, I think you've seen some exceptions. Your William Byrons and people like that who, maybe did a little racing, but the iRacing has really helped them. And that's a testament to the technology, how it's progressed as we get into today's times. But I'm a firm believer there's no other way to learn how to be successful in racing on a consistent level other than get in there and get your hands dirty and fill that race car with the seat of your pants.
Sounds a little old school to me, but then again, that's no surprise. Can you explain to my listeners the importance of the Myers family legacy and how it's so intertwined at Bowman Gray?
For somebody that may not know the story, my great uncle Bobby was actually in one of Lee Petty's cars at Darlington in September of 1957 and was killed in a racing accident. Roughly 6 months later, my grandpa, Billy Myers, was leading a feature. It was in April of 58. He was leading the feature on the white flag lap and died of a heart attack. So within 6 months of each other, racing lost the Myers brothers at that time. And of course, they have the Myers Brothers Award today that's presented to a company, individual, or organization that contributes the most to Cup racing. And we're very honored to be a part of that. But that just gives you an idea of when we don't want to joke about it, but it's kind of a interesting factoid, I guess you could say, that our family has literally given its lives to this sport. With that being said, I think my dad started when he was 16, and then me and my brother have both come along, and I guess we're technically the Myers brothers of today. So this is not a hobby for us. It's a lifestyle. We joke about birthdays and weddings, childbirth, vacations, all of that stuff is planned around racing season. I don't think it's a mistake or a coincidence that me and my brother were both born in November and December. So it's what we do, Jack. You know, we wouldn't have it any other way.
You know, you had your chances grabbing that brass ring, you know, made some starts in some of the upper levels of the ladder. And now at this point, Burt Myers strikes me as a guy that's just plain happy driving a modified race car, testing his mettle against his peers and seeing how it comes out on a Saturday night.
You know, I've told the story before about when I was, and I just started racing. I mean, I started driving a modified when I was 18 years old, and I'm 45 now. So you could do the math there. But I can remember when I was driving modifieds, and of course, I was watching my dad and watching all those guys over at Bowman Gray. And I remember thinking how bad I wanted to do that. But at the same time, every young driver wants to be that Cup champion, that Cup superstar. Other than my dad, you know, Dale Earnhardt was my hero. And that's, you know, that driving style, that whole persona that he had, that was what I wanted. And I can remember praying. I prayed to God for me to make it. That was my prayer. And little did I know that his idea of making it and my idea of making it were two different scenarios. But I would not have met my wife. Or I'm very certain I would not have met my wife, Kim, had I, quote unquote, made it to the Cup Series. I wouldn't have my son Slate. We wouldn't be involved in the community and be where we are in our life right now. So, you know, I had no idea what God's plan was for me. I think I do now. Every day is a new day, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy where I am. I every week I go out, every day I go out. I try to be better. I try to get as much out of it as I can. You know, a lot of times I can't financially justify it to my wife why I go run up in the north and go to the New England racetracks and stuff. But it's just what I want to do. You know, I want to go race. I want to test myself against somebody that maybe I haven't tested myself against before. So I know what I'm up against, but it's a challenge. You know, it's a challenge. And I look forward to those challenges, you know, every day that goes by.
Well, listen, it's a real treat. I do honestly and sincerely appreciate your visiting with me today. And Burt, I wish you the very best to you, to Jason, to your entire family. You're like my family. You grew up around racing. You know nothing other than racing. And hey, number 11 looks pretty good in 2021. Go get it.
Well, I'm going to do my best, and I appreciate you having me.
Be sure to join us again next week for another trip to racing's grassroots with the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap. Brought to you by the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, advancing the next generation of drivers and champions. I'm Kyle Rickey from the Motor Racing Network.
Coming up next.
I'm Kyle Petty, race car driver, musician, speed enthusiast. I know where I found my passions in life, but I'm always curious about where others found theirs.
He's a man of many hats, from driving to riding motorcycles to drilling deep. Kyle Petty brings a unique perspective to not only racing, but to life itself. I visit with my old friend in an extended conversation that begins after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Well, if you look up the term Renaissance man in the dictionary, my next guest's 8x10 glossy photo is right there. I've known Kyle Petty for more than 40 years, and along the way, I've seen him do some pretty amazing things, and I'm not just talking about his driving career. His Coffee with Kyle series is a must-watch. Ditto for his new series, Dinner Drive, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. He has an intuitive nature, but more importantly, an unbridled inquisitiveness. So if his father, Richard Petty, is NASCAR's king, then in my opinion, Kyle Petty, you're definitely the crown prince. Welcome to the wind tunnel.
Thank you. I consider myself more of the jester. So that's cool. So I appreciate the upgrade there.
You know, though, that's important because I think that is what has allowed you to do so many things and provide fans, viewers, listeners, insights that maybe get glossed over or don't even get any attention paid to. You're a lot like me in that regard. I really don't care whether the guy took 3 turns in the left rear. I don't give a rat's ass about whether the splitter is not, is hitting the ground. But what I do want to know is what makes those people tick.
Yeah.
And you have used that to define no matter what you do, all the way to even I watched the Grand Ole Opry presentation the other day, and even that song that you wrote really drilled down into the heart of what made America tick.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you on the racing stuff. I don't need to know who raised the pig, when they killed the pig, and how it got turned into a football. I don't need to know that. I don't need to know the technical aspect of it. Okay, I just don't. I don't need to know how baseballs are made I want to know what that guy's thinking when he stands over that ball. I want to know what that guy's thinking when he's cradling that ball and running. When you talk to a Herschel Walker, I want those kind of things. Listen, I know what it's like to sit in a car at 140 degrees and be double throw down PO'd at the guy in front of me and be driving just a little bit harder to get to that bumper. I know that. And you can see that. You can see that when you watch guys do it. So that's the aspect I like. I am and maybe it's just from growing up in the era that I came along and you were there, with my dad and Pearson and Cale and Bobby and Donnie and just listening to those guys, listening to Darrell tell stories, listening to the tales of what NASCAR was when they came along in their youth and wanting to know what the tales are today. It's like the song from the Grand Ole Opry. Those are just stories. Those are just stories from a newscast. But the thing is, I do Coffee with Kyle, and Coffee with Kyle is my passion. I'm going to have to say that because I want to know how Mike Helton got from being an accounting student in Bristol, Tennessee, to the president of NASCAR and not having a last name France. I want to know how that happened. You know what I mean? And those are things I want to know. You might not want to know them. You may have never thought about them. But when I ask questions on Coffee of Kyle with Penske, with Doug Yates, with guys like that, those are questions I want to know. I want to know how you were kicking my butt, Doug Yates. That's what I want to know, So that's I am inquisitive like that. I do want to know things.
I like the way you couch that, because the fact that you look on the surface saying, and I'm going to boil it down to, I don't care what you want to know. It's all about what I want to know. Well, isn't that, Kyle, in actuality, a much deeper way to go about life in general? Because it's not just interviews. It's not just Coffee with Kyle. It's Kyle Petty's lifestyle, where it's less about KP and a lot more about, I don't care if the guy runs the general store. You want to know what makes him and motivates him.
Yeah. And that's it. That, I was fascinated. Obviously my grandfather raced and my dad raced and I raced, and then Adam came along and raced. But when I had an opportunity to sit with David Pearson, and I wanted to know, for a kid that was born in 1936, what made you want to be a race car driver?
Yeah.
I know why I wanted to be a race car driver. I know why my dad came along and wanted to be. What made you? And he told a tale about climbing up in a pine tree at Greenville Pickens with his dad and watching a guy come off turn 2 sideways. And he said when he was 7 years old, he was like, that's what I'm going to do. Well, there was no such thing as a professional stock car driver at that time in this country. So there's a kid that's dreaming about being something that's not even a profession. That's not. And he went on to be one of the greatest, arguably the greatest race car driver that ever sat in a stock car when you look at his numbers. So it is. How did you get to this place? I mean, I went out with a bunch of reporters the other night with Nate Ryan and Doug Rice and Bob Pockris and those guys. And my question to them was, what made you want to be a reporter? How did you become a writer? And the funny part is, like me doing what I'm doing now, they all started as math majors, or they all started as art majors or something else, and ended in journalism school and just were just immersed in the word and writing and asking questions, and that's who they found who they were.
Kyle, I was a pre-med major.
Yeah.
So go figure.
Go figure, man. Go figure.
I want to get back to the here and now, but there's an awful lot of people that probably and most likely don't know and understand. It's just the aura of Petty Enterprises. And certainly you grew up in a family atmosphere, and you always say 1979 was a special day for you in the Daytona 500 win by your dad. Quite honestly, because you were one of about 3 cats at Petty Enterprises that actually built that Oldsmobile.
He slides. Donnie Allison slides. They hit again. They drive in the turn. They're hitting the wall. They're head on the wall. They slide down to the inside. Let's watch those third place cars. They're out of it. Who is going to win it? Richard Petty is now pulling out in front. Darrell Waltrip is in second. A.J. Boyd is in third. Here they come. Waltrip trying to slingshot. Petty is out in front at the line. Waltrip to the inside. Petty wins it.
Yeah, that is, to me, and I've said that when people say, what are your biggest moments in NASCAR and in racing? And I will say that's my number one. That's my number one. Take out anything I ever did. It was being 17, 18 years old at Petty Enterprises. Richie Bars, Steve Mill. We were down. If you look at that car, it's got Southern Pride Car Wash on it. It doesn't have STP on the hood. And everybody assumes it has that big STP logo on the hood. That's the first thing that comes, but that's not it. We were struggling to get to the racetrack. Built that Oldsmobile, and we go down there, and my dad wins the race. And for the first time, and I had stood in victory lane with him 1,000 times, it felt like, you felt like you did something. You felt like you were part of something. You were a piece of that team. And that's the moment for me, more than any other moment in my life, that I realized what being a team player was and what it meant to be a part of a team. When Adam came along and won his race, won the ARCA race here at Charlotte.
Final corner, here he comes, Wallace with the last turn charge, up to the outside, final turn to the stripe, he'll not do it, Adam Petty will win the Easy Care 100 at Charlotte. Tremendous victory for the 18-year-old youngster, his first super speedway start in the ARCA series. He will score the victory, hand out the window, pumping his fist, the crowd on their feet, cheering him on. Adam Petty, the winner tonight, a spectacular story here at Charlotte.
Yeah, we crashed in practice. He crashed in practice, and myself and Bobby Kennedy and a couple of us put it back together in the garage area, and then he goes and wins the race. And I think, man, there's your bookends. Building Richard Petty's car, and being a part of that wins the Daytona 500, and building Adam's car and repairing it. And then he wins his first major event at a major super speedway. There's your bookends. So everything that happened in between, that was my life, and it was fun. And I had a good time, and I wouldn't change any of it. Don't get me wrong, but those are the 2 biggest racing moments in my life.
Kyle, I think an awful lot of my listeners will empathize with the question I'm about to ask you. No parent should ever have to bury one of their kids. It's just not the way life is. You had to. How did it change your life?
It turned it all around, honestly. I think here's what happens, and I explained it in a country way, in a simplistic way. Mm-hmm. A seed falls and a tree grows, and as that tree grows, the older tree eventually dies away or begins to go away, and it's just nature. The older ones pass and the younger ones come along, and that's the nature of the world. That's the way the world works. When the younger ones go, it throws the world and throws everything you believe about the world. It throws everything you've been taught. You question it. Is that really the way it is? Or is that just the way it's supposed to be? I don't know. And I don't. It gave me patience. It gave me understanding. Gave me a lot more empathy, to put myself in someone else's position, to put myself when they're mad, when they're happy, when they're sad, when something tragic has happened in their life. So I think for me, and it made me realize more than anything else, is that you have to take advantage You have to be ready for the opportunities. And you have to just be willing to just do it. Just do it, man. I rode a bull. I was 52 years old. I got on a bull for Eddie Gossage at Texas. Would I have done that before Adam's accident? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I tell people all the time, two things. I always wear a long sleeve shirt, and I have two missions in life. Number one is when I'm 110 and I'm in the nursing home, I want the nurses to say, Mr. Petty, you the whitest man we have ever seen. Sun never saw this body. The sun never saw this body. That's number one. Number two is when I'm 110 and somebody says, man, I wish I'd have rode a bull. I can say, hey, I rode a bull. When they say, I wish I'd have flown around the world. Hey, I flew around the world one time. I wish I'd have run a stock car at 200. Hey, I did that at 200. I don't want to be that guy who wished he did something. I want to be that guy that has a story to tell about what he did. Now, I may have failed. I may not have succeeded. I may have made a total fool of myself, but I'm going to jump in there and I'm going to give it a shot one time, and then I'll move on to something else.
Let's go back to a much happier time. It's so hard to believe that it's so many years ago, but you and I intersected in another life before I started in broadcasting, when I had a marketing firm, and we're able to take you, the Wood brothers, and join you with 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, look, I knew that you had it in you to win, but I never expected you to win second time out in the damn car.
Down here in victory lane with the winning driver. He's taking the steering wheel off the car. Come on, Kyle. You'll have to comb your hair. Get out here. Kyle Petty's getting a proper attire on. He's removed the steering wheel from the Wood Brothers car, which has been out of the winner's circle for quite some time. Come on out, Kyle. Here he is. Here's the winner. Hey! Congratulations. You surprised? Surprise ain't the word for it. I mean, we worked hard all day. The car pushed all day long and we could never get it. The motor ran real good. But, we never got the driving right until right there at the very end. And then they just drove off and left and I got caught in traffic. But evidently they all got to run at each other and we were lucky. Did you see the crash? No, I was in the middle of back stretch. I seen the smoke. I just went up on Daddy and him and I guess the 10 car, Sykes and those guys, and was trying to just feel my way around him to finish the race. And looked down the corner and I seen the yellow bumper and I figured it was Bohan's or Earnhardt's. I didn't know which one it was, but we was fortunate, real lucky.
Listen, I'll forever be grateful for you for hooking me up, because I want to say this. I'd known Lynn and Eddie and Leonard and Glenn and Kim and my whole life, but it was always that adversarial position. A lot of respect for each other because it was Petty Pearson, Wood Brothers, Petty Enterprises. The history of the sport. And, it's like Boston and the Yankees, it's that kind of thing. It's that yin and yang. But so to cross over and go up there at my age, because I was young, man, I was 23, 24 years old. I had no idea. I'd only ever thought I was going to drive for Petty Enterprises and Richard Petty and my family. And now all of a sudden I'm somewhere else. That you talk about before, and you talk about Adam's accident, as that's a defining moment in my life. Driving for the Wood Brothers is another moment that I look at as a defining moment. They were family. They became family to me. It's crazy we're having this conversation. I just talked to Eddie 2 days ago.
Wow.
I talked to Eddie. I talked to Lynn. I talked to Kim. We text all the time. When Glenn passed and Bernice passed, it was family. It was family. And going up there and driving, I will say it. I'll say it till the day I die. Leonard Wood is the smartest man ever to turn a wrench on a stock car.
Amen.
Bumper to bumper.
Yep.
Now, he may not have been the greatest engine builder. He may not have been the greatest crew chief, but he knew more about that bumper to bumper than anybody else. Dale Inman could get you so far, and then he had to hand you off to somebody else. Other guys could get you so far, and they had to hand you off. Not Leonard. He was the guy. So that was a great deal, man. I loved it. And here's the funny part. I don't know if I've ever even told you this. I told Eddie and them after I'd been up there about 6 months, I was at the shop one day, and I told Eddie, I said, I've been looking around here, and I've realized that I'm the only one here that is not related to you guys in some way, shape, or form, which means when you guys get ready to fire somebody, it's going to be me, not some of these other guys.
First on the
around me.
list. That's right.
I said, just give me a heads up, man. Just give me a heads up. Give me enough time to land on my feet somewhere. And it is so funny. We ran our course, and all race teams run their course.
Sure.
That's just the way it is. We ran our course, and Eddie called me up one day and he said, "Hey, I think we're going to make a change." And I said, "We're good, man. We're good. Thank you very much." And we have stayed just like this through all that, through everything that went on, because that was the business side and this is the friendship side. But it was funny, man. When you come to that realization that you're the one that's going to have to go out the door at some point in time, it changed. That's a life changer too.
My conversation with Kyle Petty continues in a moment. We'll look at NASCAR today, get his take on its current drivers, and unpack some of his favorite projects. All that and a quick story about how KP was once my ticket to a free steak dinner in Daytona Beach, Florida. All that when we continue with this week's edition of Wind Tunnel.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Before we go back to my conversation with Kyle, I wanted to share with you how he once was my meal ticket at a Daytona Beach steakhouse back, some 40 years ago.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
With apologies to Rocky and Bullwinkle, it's time for Wind Tunnel Stories. Not fractured, and certainly not fairy tales. Instead, they're stories collected during my 50 years in racing. There's just 10 years that separate Kyle and my age, and while he has been pretty successful in keeping most of his hair, although it's a little grayer than when he drove, and as hard as it may be for you to believe, he and I sometimes were mistaken one for the other. Take you back to 1981. Some of you may remember that the 80s were the disco decade. Styles were a lot different back then. Shoulder pads and big hair for the ladies and perms for the men. I guess you could say the guys found their hairstyles pumped up thanks to chemicals. Both Kyle and I back then sported perms in our hair. Really, it's true. At one time, Jack Arute sported a full head of puffed up jet black hair. If you don't believe me, just Google it, okay? Both mine and Kyle's hairstyles were exactly alike. And a lot of times we joked about it. It was one night at the Chart House restaurant in Daytona Beach that some race fans mistook me for Kyle. They came up to my table and very politely said, "Mr. Petty, we're big fans. Can you give us an autograph?" I tried to explain to them that I wasn't Kyle Petty, but they were having none of it. They were insistent, polite, but insistent. So after a couple of minutes, I surrendered and gave them an autograph, personalized it, forged my very best imitation of Kyle Petty's signature. They happily went back to their table, finished their meal, and departed with what they thought was Kyle Petty's autograph. But that wasn't the end of this Petty impersonation. When my group was finished, I asked for our check, and the waiter said, "Jack, it's been taken care of." "That group that you talked to earlier," said the waiter, "well, they paid for you and your entire party." Then the waiter said, "But Jack, I was a little bit confused. They kept saying that you were Kyle Petty."
Only now you know the rest of the story.
All right, let's switch gears to the here and now. You have an insatiable inquisitiveness, as I said. So you're looking and surveying the landscape that is NASCAR today. And as you alluded to, it's a hell of a lot different than when you and I were immersed in it. Is it headed in the right direction?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not, you and I, we're not in those meetings in Daytona.
Yeah,
we don't know what their 5-year plan is, what their 10-year plan is. I think this next car is a huge step to get them where they need to be. But I also think this new car is 8, 10, 15 years behind. Coming at this time with the independent rear suspension, with everything that they've come. We went forever and ran carburetors when you couldn't even go to the auto parts store and buy carburetors. They didn't sell them. Nobody stocked them because nobody used them anymore. But that's what Cup cars were. It was antiquated technology. But at the same time, the Cup teams and racing kept moving that technology forward. Who would have ever thought that a 358, you could have got almost 900 horsepower out of it?
Yeah.
I mean, we go back to our time, and it was a big deal to get 400 or 500 horsepower out of those things. They've doubled it in 20 or 30 years. So I think that's a plus. At the same time, as we see the change in the car, you hear rumblings out of Detroit, GM and people like that, we're going to be all electric by 35. By 2035, by 2040. The writing's on the wall, dude. The writing's on the wall. The internal combustion engine and what we know as coming out of Detroit. Why would Detroit support a series that was gasoline powered if they're going to go to all electric? And I'm just saying there's signs like that as we look at the environment, as we look at other things. People point to motorsports. Motorsports aren't any more intrusive on the environment than everybody jumping in their car and driving to a college football game. Everybody, I mean, it's just not, when you look at it that way, because you say, well, they're using rubber tires, they're burning fossil fuels, they're using, I got all that, man. I got that. But it's just, those are apples and oranges when you start into that. I think how we engage young fans is a huge part of it. I think iRacing and some of that stuff has got fans to that place, but virtual racing is not real racing. There's not that danger element. There's not that element that we grew up with. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of small issues that could become issues, big issues if they're not addressed. But as I say, I'm not that. TV. I do TV. We do and streaming. Man, we're streaming going. You know what I mean? I can watch a race on this. I can watch a race on this. Who would have ever thought it, man?
Yeah.
Who would have thought we couldn't get it on TV back in the 70s, and I can watch one here. So 40 or 50 years. So, and time has sped up. So in the next 10, 15, 20 years, where's that going to go? I don't know. But I think they're headed in the right direction with a lot of things that they're doing.
You mentioned some of the truly great superstars of the past, the legacies, the history of the Pearsons, the Pettys, the Waltrips, the Earnhardts, that pretty much weren't bridled or held back by social media, that weren't maneuvered to the point where just for survival today, these drivers have to take the direction of handlers, of marketing experts, etc. When you drill down inside of them, is Kyle Larson any different than David Pearson?
No. I wish we lived in a time when we're never going to know these drivers the way we knew those drivers. You're never going to know Joey Logano the way you knew Bobby Isaac, or the stories that you heard about Charlie Glotzback and you're just not going to, because that can't be allowed. It's never going to happen because they've got sponsors, you've got social media. If you misstep, if you say the wrong word, if you speak out of context, if you try to be sarcastic, I could never survive. If you try to be sarcastic, if you try to be funny, it just doesn't come across. It doesn't come across. It doesn't come across in 140 characters on Twitter. Sorry. And if it doesn't come across there, then it's not. And if there's not a picture of it, it never happened. That's just the way it is in life today. So, I think if you sit down and talk to Kyle Larson, if you sit down and talk to Joey Logano, if you sit down and talk to these younger guys, Cole Custer, Ryan Blaney, the young guys, Chase Elliott, the guys that are coming around, in their heart, they're still Richard Petty, David Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Jeff Gordon. In their heart, they just can't be that on the outside because we won't allow them to. Society doesn't allow them to. The public doesn't allow them to. Jimmy Johnson, I go back to this a number of years ago. Jimmy Johnson, I think he broke his wrist, and they concocted some crazy story about how he he did this and he did that, and he cracked a bone in his wrist or something. When in essence, he had a few beers and he was standing on top of a golf cart, and they were golf cart surfing, and he fell off the top of a golf cart. That's a better story. I become a Jimmy Johnson fan if I know he's drunk and golf cart surfing.
Because he's then like us.
Yeah. Then he's like my next door neighbor.
Right.
Then he's like that guy that pays $50 or $150 and is sitting in the third row in the grandstands with his cooler. That's who Jimmy Johnson becomes. But we won't let him be that guy. We don't want him to be that guy. NASCAR doesn't want him to be that guy. And the sponsors doesn't want him to be that guy. So you protect it, you hide it, it's swept under the carpet. And that story comes out later. And when the story comes out later, then they take heat because, as we know from Watergate, the cover-up is always worse than the crime. Okay, that's just the way.
Hey, wait a minute. You realize when you reference Watergate, probably the majority of my listeners haven't got a freaking clue what you're talking about.
I know.
Okay?
I apologize, but the cover-up is always worse than the crime. So
for sure.
Yeah, but I do believe these guys. There's a lot of great personalities in that garage area right now, more so probably than we've had in a long time.
Well, and thanks to folks like you, their stories are being told, and that's good. All right, couple of quick hits. I want to go back to Nashville, getting up on that stage at the Grand Ole Opry, or wheeling a car in the draft at Talladega at 226 miles an hour. Which was more stressful?
Oh, standing on stage. Stand on stage. No doubt. And here's why. Here's why, Jackie. Honestly, that it is. If that just to go stand on stage, I'll go stand on stage and BS with anybody anywhere. But to stand on that stage.
They dressed in a restroom this morning at Walmart. They're living in their van and they're doing all they can to stay together. They're hanging on by just a thread. Faith and family make them stronger. But fear and doubt keeps whispering how much longer. They're just another sign hard times. Yes, they're just another sign of the times that we're all living. Hard times.
There's so much history. That's gotta be like going to Augusta for the first time and standing on that first tee. You know what I mean? And knowing Bobby Jones teed off there, knowing, Sam Snead, all the greats have come across that tee box. That would be like going to Daytona and having the opportunity to all drive the same car that Buck Baker, Lee Petty, Joe Weatherly, the Flocks, Richard Petty, Pearson, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt, that everybody had driven that same car, and you got to strap in and hang on to that steering wheel at Daytona, because that's where the history of the sport is. And that's where the history of music is, country music especially, is there at the Opry in that little circle. So, that was a little nerve-wracking. I said it, my heart was beating 1,000 miles a minute. It was. That was nerve-wracking.
Well, it was a pretty good performance. It was a great
thank
song.
you very much.
All right, finally, dinner drive.
I'm Kyle Petty, race car driver, musician, speed enthusiast. I know where I found my passions in life, but I'm always curious about where others found theirs. And I've figured out over the years, the best way to get to know someone better is over a little food. So I'm hitting the road to catch up with some friends to hear their life stories, and you're invited. Pull up a seat and join us for this edition of Dinner Drive.
Basically, I was looking for an opportunity to just go talk to people.
Of course,
just like we're talking right now. I was just looking for an opportunity to go learn about people. And everybody wants a car show. Everybody thinks Kyle Petty's a car guy. Kyle Petty is a motorcycle guy. Okay, I'm go on record. I've said that before. I love motorcycles. But the car, the motorcycle, the boat, the plane, the train, whatever I use here is my entree to get to talk to you. And I don't want to know what your fanciest car is. I don't want to know what car you're in love with. I want to know a car that has a sentimental attachment to you. That's a car that you think about when you think, man, I remember riding, in the back of a 65 Ford station wagon, looking out the back window because it had the rumble seat in the back where your parents would put you and put everything in between you and them. It's that kind of car. And so I sat down and came up with a list of people I wanted to talk to. Some of them had cars. Some of them we had to go find cars. Did Dale Jr. was my first. I tell people I did Dale Jr. because he lives here in Charlotte. And I knew if I messed that one up, he would let me come back and try another one so we could get it right. But his is a 88 Chevy S10 pickup, just an S10 pickup. Now you walk in his race shop, he's got his dad's old race cars. He's got his race cars that he won his first cup race with. And you say, what car is sentimental to you? And he points at a black and white Chevy S10 pickup. And you go, there's no way. And then he begins to tell you, first car he used to go to school in it. Him and his buddies would ride around in the back and throw, beer bottles at mailboxes. I mean, just all the stories that entail. That got us to, okay, let's go get something to eat. They take us to a local restaurant, and that got us into his concussion. That got us into his marriage and marrying later in life and having kids. And it's like I said to him, and I truly believe this. His dad was a voice for this sport. His dad was a voice for NASCAR while he was here. But Dale Jr. is a voice for another generation. He is a man that stood up and said, I have an injury.
Yeah.
Nobody had ever done that in the sport. He is a leader. What did it take to do that? How did you come to that place? And we talk about that. That was a life-changing moment. Darius Rucker. I did one with Darius Rucker. I could not fathom. And his is a Carmageddon. Darius is his emotion or sentimental car is a Carmageddon. I could not fathom that a guy could be at the top of the pop charts with Hootie and the Blowfish and then say, oh, I'm going to go try something different. I'm going to do country, which is a totally different genre, totally different audience. And that takes something. There's something in your heart that you believe in yourself and you don't care what other people think. You follow your own path. So it's those questions that I'm able to talk to people and talk about. And you know what? Mario Andretti, I did Junior, Mario Andretti, and my dad. Those three were my race guys because that was low hanging fruit. So I did those were my first. And then I did three sports guys. I did Davis Love III, just been named captain of the president's team at the time. Davis Love III, Herschel Walker, and I did Ric Flair, which was amazing. Rick just opened up about a lot of things, about the loss of his son and a lot of that. And then I did Darius Rucker and I did Pitbull. So it's a pretty eclectic group. Pitbull's car was a mid-70s Pinto that his mom would take him to school and they'd ride around and listen to Tony Robbins tape and listen to tapes and listen to music at night when it was hot in Miami. Without an air conditioner because they didn't have an air conditioner where they live. So it's the stories that they tell and the adversity that they overcome. But at the same time, it's amazing that there's something special inside all these guys that make them just a little bit different, that send them in a different direction. So it was a lot of fun to do, man. And the food was good. Mario took
and it
me
was
to his
free.
favorite
And it was free.
And it was free. Listen,
Exactly.
Mario took me to his favorite restaurant, and he brought a bottle of Andretti wine. So that was a double win.
Win-win.
For me, man.
Listen, it is, and I've said it before, it is right in your wheelhouse. But more importantly, in this day and age, coming off the pandemic and all the social issues that we deal with, taking Kyle Petty's approach to life, I think that's a pretty good benchmark to hang up there and for all of us to try and get a little closer to. KP, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate it. We could go on for days, but I got to limit it somehow. But let's not be strangers, okay, my friend?
Don't be strangers, man. Listen, I'll do a guest spot with you once a month if you want to. Just keep me in because, man, we can go back and we can tell Daryl stories and Junior stories, and we can go way back, man.
Cal, be well.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Is there just another sign the times that we're all living. Hard times.
I'll wrap things up after this timeout.
Thank you guys for allowing me to do a song for you guys tonight. God bless every one of you. Thank you.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
My thanks to Burt Myers of Bowman Gray Stadium, Alexander Rossi from IndyCar, and Kyle Petty for their visits inside the wind tunnel this week. We continue to grow our listenership, and you can be of great help in that regard. Please let your social media followers know about the series, won't you? Also, remember that the entire Wind Tunnel series can now be downloaded at your favorite download site. And we have a Wind Tunnel YouTube channel where, in addition to posting each weekly episode, we feature a series called Uncut and Unplugged that puts the interview video with the audio. And believe me, it is indeed totally unedited. I appreciate your visiting. Look forward to seeing you again next week, right here on Jackaroot's Wind Tunnel.
Today's trip to the Wind Tunnel was brought to you by
Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR.